I'm continuing my reading here, and what I'm doing in this section, in this series, is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am reading in a chronological... This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. However, I am still currently in the Book of Deuteronomy. This will be chapter 14. In addition, this chapter does contain some portions of the Joseph Smith translation. And what this is an inspired correction or translation of the Bible done by Joseph Smith to correct or restore those portions of the Bible that had been changed over the years. You will also note that I am again in the basement, and the dryers are kind of loud in the background today, so let's see how it goes. This is it. Chapter 14. Israelites are children of the Lord Jehovah. Unclean beasts, fish, and fowl shall not be eaten. Israel shall tithe all the increase of their seed annually. Ye are the children of the Lord your God. Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto him above all the nations that are upon the earth. Now, just briefly, no cutting or make baldness. This was a practice of a lot of pagan rituals as part of their mourning, cutting their hands, marking their bodies in some way to signify mourning for the dead. They're saying, don't do this. Verse 4, Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. These are the beasts which ye shall eat, the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the hart, and the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the pygarg, and the wild ox, and the chemoys, and every beast that parteth the hoof, and cleaveth the cleft into two claws, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. Now, I have to wonder what a pygarg and a chemoy is. There's no footnotes for them, so... The roebuck, a gazelle, that's what a roebuck is, but interesting. I'm going to have to look those up. Pygarg and chemoy. Verse 7. Nevertheless, these ye shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel and the hare and the coney. For they chew the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore they are unclean unto you. And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. These ye shall eat of all that are in the waters. All that have fins and scales shall ye eat, and whatsoever hath not fins and scales ye may not eat. It is unclean unto you. Of all clean birds ye shall eat, but these are they of which ye shall not eat: the eagle, and the ossifrage, and the osprey, and the glede, and the kite, and the vulture after his kind, and every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind, the little owl, and the great owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the gyre eagle, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. And every creeping thing that flieth is unclean unto you. They shall not be eaten, but of all clean fowls ye may eat. Now that's a nice long list. Let's see. Vultures are buzzards. Kite's another type of similar bird to a vulture. The ossifrage. Well, let's say the ossifrage is another type of vulture. So the seagull, 15. The cuckoo is the seagull. Where it says swan, it says that's actually a barn owl. Interesting. The gyre eagle is another type of vulture. The lapwing, the hoopoe bird, I'm not sure what that is. That doesn't really help me out there. A lapwing is a hoopoe. I'm not sure what either one of those is. So, and then of course the creeping things are the insects. So there you go. This is just another rundown review of clean and unclean animals. So let's just keep going. Verse 21. Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. Or thou mayest sell it unto an alien. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. Now we're going to pause here, because this is where we get our Joseph Smith translation that I mentioned earlier. And you'll note here this is saying, if it dies of itself, you can't eat it, but you can sell it to somebody else. You can give it to the stranger, you can give it to the alien, but remember that the Lord has emphasized on multiple occasions that the law has to apply to everybody equally. So even the strangers were not allowed to eat the unclean animals within the nation of Israel. So this is our Joseph Smith translation. Here we go. Ye shall not eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt not give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat of it. Or thou mayest not sell it unto an alien, for thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not see the kid in his mother's milk. So he's saying, don't do these things. That makes a whole lot more sense. It would be like saying, it would be like God saying, you're not supposed to smoke, but you can sell cigarettes to somebody else. It doesn't make any sense. But God is saying, don't do this. Don't even participate in it. If something has died of itself, then you don't touch it. You don't give it to somebody else. You are supposed to be holy. Israel is being called as the standard. They're supposed to be proclaiming the truth of God to the rest of the world through their example. And selling or giving these unclean things to others is not a good example. Anyways, verse 22. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thy oil, and the firstlings of thy herds and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. And if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, then shalt thou turn it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shalt go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household. And the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee. At the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up therein, lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come, and shall eat, and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thy hand, which thou doest. Now remember, this one here. Okay, first of all, saying you got to go to the temple. And you got to bring your tithes to the high priest. That's what your tithing is being paid to the priests. So you got to bring it to the priests. You got to eat the feast there. But if you got too much and you can't carry it, well, sell it, take the money with you, and then buy new food so you can eat there. Because you're supposed to be having a feast down at the temple. So I find that very interesting. You're supposed to be eating the feast at the temple. If you can't bring your own food, then you take that food, sell it, and buy new food. It's an interesting dynamic there. But that last part. At the end of 3 years, bring it and lay it up within thy gates. Remember, the commandment of the Lord is when you first go in, the first year, you don't plant. You give the land, I believe if I remember correctly, you give the land rest. The second year you plant, but you don't harvest. And the third year is the first year that they are actually allowed to harvest what has been planted. And this is it's a great agricultural practice, quite honestly. But so in the third year, now they lay up the tithes. And the tithes, part of it is the feast. They have to go and they eat at the temple. But it also says, all the tithes of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates, and it becomes the food for the Levites, who don't have nearly as much land, just have the cities, as well as the fatherless and the widows who are unable to produce their own. And this is how these things were taken care of. The tithing was brought in once a year, and that food that the tithing was paid from was used to support the priests and the Levites, as well as the fatherless and the widows. Anyways, we're going to leave that one here, and I will see you in the next one.